If you're a large company in the UK, if you're part of the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme regulations, that's ESOS, so if you take part in those, it's mandatory, and there's about 8,000 companies in the UK that are part of the scheme. Things changed for you last week, okay? There's an update been issued with a number of new sort of requirements for you to implement in your ESOS report. Let's have a look at those and see how they will affect you. If you're a large company in the UK, you're probably part of the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme, lovingly referred to as ESOS, okay? It's a scheme set up, I think the first one was 2014, and it runs every 4 years. It's been pretty consistent for, the first phase, phase 1 in 2014, the second phase in 2018, but now things are changing. The government issued this last week, which is the changes to the scheme made in response to a consultation that they carried out last year. So we were part of that, we put our views forward to it, and it asked a number of questions to both industry professionals and trade bodies, etc. Collected the responses. They published a response, I think in September last year, and it's taken until now to come up with what they're actually going to do, all right? So there are a number of changes that you have to be aware of. I've got a list of them here. This is the ESOS newsletter. You probably get that if you're on the Environment Agency mailing list. Let's go through them one by one and see how they'll affect you. Number one, the report needs to have certain information put into a standardized template. Now, if you're using a platform such as the Enistic Platform to report for you, no worries, that will automatically happen. But if you're not, if you're doing it manually or spreadsheets, etc., then you're going to have to take account of the new layout and the new templates that they've published, okay? No doubt they've changed, but they're out there right now. You can download them on the response to the consultation. They're at the back, okay? Number two, the de minimis has dropped from 10% to 5%. What does that mean? The de minimis is the energy that you're allowed just to ignore. Don't take any further notice of, don't analyze, don't cross-reference and cross-index, etc., etc. That's reduced down to 5% now of your overall energy use. Most of my clients are under that. So, if you're an Enistic client, you're probably fine, but if you're not, and you're over sort of like the 5% mark, you need to therefore analyze more energy than you used to before, okay? The next one's the addition of an energy intensity metric. Now, again, the Enistic platform kind of does that already, but if not, you're going to have to include it manually. And what you need to do is look at the energy consumption of each site and divide that by some sort of metric, either number of full-time equivalent employees or square foot, something like that. So you might end up with, so for example, 2.3 kilowatt hours per square foot per year, that kind of thing, okay? Then the idea is you can then league table your sites and just see who's the best, who's the worst, okay? Nice and easy. Next one down here is, it's quite rubbishy really. You've got to share the report with any subsidiary companies. Most people do that anyway, okay? A requirement for ESOS reports to implement the next steps of meeting any recommendations made in the report, and I'm going to tackle that with the next one as well, which is to publish an action plan about what you're going to do. Now this is kind of sparkly, shiny and new, and what it's going to mean is that you don't just have to look at what the state of play is with your energy for your estate, you have to then say, well, what are you going to do about it, okay? The other requirement in here is that in ESOS Phase 4, which is in 2027, you're going to have to report back about your progress against those targets. So in 2027, you need to say, well, look, in 2023, we said we can do this, 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 and this. How have we done? Now, if you're already doing science-based targets, TCFD, or in a lot of cases, the PPN 0621 compliance, probably don't need that. You're probably doing that already, and it's just a case of cut, paste. But if not, you're going to have to think about what projects you can put in place to reduce your energy down. How are you going to track that? What are the targets? What are the measures? and then the time scale involved for each of those. Okay, so that's a good one. I like that one. So well done, Environment Agency. That's a nice one. The next one is collection of additional data. Now, that refers back to a different document. This document here, I've just done the one page, the relevant page, but it's about 50 pages long. And that asks for more information about you, your estate, and your activities within the various buildings in your estate, okay? It's things like fuel type, energy by building, energy by category, energy by fuel type, the use of each building, the predicted savings when the ESOS sort of measures are implemented, etc. On it goes. If you're interested, it's in the response document, page 45. There's a big long list, but there's nothing scary in there. It's all pretty much normal sort of fare. I mean, again, when we do reports, we tend to do this anyway, so we've looked through this a couple of times. I don't think there's anything in there that we don't currently do, but I have seen some ESOS reports done by other people where they don't do this level of detail, and this is then tightening up on that, which leads me very nicely, very neatly, very sort of like DJ-ish, into the last two things that they've announced, which is they're going to tighten up on the quality of the report you do. Okay, now they're already pretty tight already. I mean, if anybody's had the joy of going through an ESOS audit with them, a compliance audit, they're a lot of work and they're very sort of fiddly to do, but they do take an interest about what's in the report. But they're taking even more interest in the content and how you've done it, number one. Number two, they're looking at, again, the ESOS lead assessor, people like my good self, and saying, well, look, did you make the right decisions? Why did you make those decisions? Yeah, are you suitably qualified to do the particular type of work that you've been employed for? And by that, I mean that if you are an ESOS lead assessor doing a chemical site, so say, for example, I was asked once to do a formaldehyde processing plant, and I just got to say, look, I just don't know. I did A-level chemistry, but that doesn't qualify me to actually sort of audit a formaldehyde plant. And you've got to look for suitability there. So when you're employing or engaging an ESOS lead assessor, make sure they've done the kind of stuff that you do. If it's office, schools, shops, retail, I think most people can do that. But if it's specialist, you need to get the right person in. Now, the stinger in the tail is that they've also increased, if you remember, probably it was about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, the level of fines that they can impose for ESOS, up to 235,000. And they've also changed the way they apply those fines. So whereas before they were pretty lenient, if you got something wrong, they'd say, well, come on, let's work on that. And if you don't do it, we'll fine you. And the policy gently shifted across to fine first, ask questions later. Okay, and the fines can be significant. It's 50, 100,000 and not unheard of. Okay, so they're the changes. What's good about them? It improves the quality of all of this and forces you to think about what you're going to do and report against it. Okay, that's brilliant. Well done, Environment Agency. Good call. What's bad about it? It does kind of miss out the whole Scope 3 scenario. Okay, so if you've got, one of my clients, for example, takes about 1,000 business class flights each year to the Far East, they're not accounted for whatsoever in ESOS, and we were kind of all hoping in the trade that they'd put some Scope 3 components into ESOS to say, well, look, those things should be considered. I'm not sure supply chain is within most people's grasp. That's quite tricky, again, unless you've got some sort of automation system behind you, but we need to start including things like that in our ESOS. And they've said in here, bless them, they've said it's optional and you can include it if you want. In my experience, that means people won't. But it is optional, and if you want a better ESOS report, maybe consider some of these Scope 3 factors. Okay, now finally, if you are an ESOS client, and maybe Farah, maybe you can put a link to this, put it as a blog post just so other people can see it as well. But there is a briefing paper on this and what actions advised to take as a response to the changes. That's going out to all our clients tomorrow. And as I say, far I can put that on the web. Put a link to it if you can, far down in the notes, and you can download that and have a look at it and see if it's useful for you. Okay, so there you go. That's the overview of the changes. The changes are currently draft, so I've not yet seen the legislation which actually kind of forces them through. But you know, the way this document has been phrased, I can easily see that will come. And you know, it's a step in the right direction. So well done, Environment Agency. Well done, everybody who took part in the consultation. Let's hope it's a success. Okay, there you go. If you have any questions, do let me know. Either sort of directly via email, put it in the comments to this video, or fire something across on the web chat, you know, on the site, whatever it is. Always happy to get your questions. And of course, I will help where I possibly can. Okay, hope that was useful, and I'll see you next time.